Hi there, this is Jim Richter and welcome to my rock and blues channel. In this channel we focus on rock and blues mandolin and how to arrange for both genres in a way that is respective of genre, culture, history, without making the mandolin either a color textural instrument, kind of like in Losing My Religion, or in the blues, thinking that you could only play in the styles of Papa Charlie McCoy or Carl Martin, Johnny Young, or Yank Rachel. And, how is it that you play something that's maybe sounds more modern, something where the mandolin could drive the music? I don't believe that mandolin should be a museum piece, but I also think it needs to be respectful of the genre because a bluegrass player, and I hear this a lot in modern playing, a bluegrass player who pretty much plays blues scales over a major pentatonic or over a major chorded song sounds bluesy, but it's not the blues. So we're not talking about doing that either. So this channel really does focus on how do you make mandolin relevant in those two styles or those two genres of music. We also look at country, jazz, folk, Americana occasionally, sometimes bluegrass banjo, but the focus always comes back to the blues and rock mandolin. This is the front end. This YouTube channel is kind of the front end for my Patreon site, which is patreon.com/Jim Richter. Please consider becoming a member. That helps support what I do here. I've been doing YouTube for 20 years and was probably the first mandolin instruction guy on YouTube. And I've only continued doing this because people have had an interest in it. I've been asked to teach camps. The Patreon site, I have a lot of subscribers, and I'm definitely very appreciative of all of you that have become members, even the free members, because there are free things that happen, and I like sharing what I kind of envision mandolin can be. So I appreciate that. But the only way I'm able to continue to do it and spend time, because, I can't sit in front of a computer all the time working on YouTube stuff or transcribing tunes or arranging tunes, is, really the incentive of people wanting it and people recognizing the value in it. And I appreciate all of you for spending the time in this and deeming it of value, because that means a lot to me. One of the things you'll notice is that I'm also trying to do different things with the way I record these. So provide your feedback, be kind, but provide feedback. As I said, I've been doing this on YouTube for 20 years. It's looked a lot different over time. The last few years, I've tried to make it a little bit more slick, but I really don't like the super slick YouTube stuff, especially like the title cards with the reactions where someone's going, "The top 5 mandolin solos of all time? The best mandolin? Question mark." There are just some things that are kind of on the cheesy side that at least to me, I mean, I'm almost 60 years old, so it may just not be appealing to, kind of appeals to my demographic. Being an Xer, I kind of like things being a little grittier. Maybe. I don't know. But I do recognize the value of giving you good video, giving you good audio, good lighting. So, any comments that you provide, I appreciate. And I'm not trying to slam any of those other individuals. It's just not me. I can't do that. It's just not part of my personality. But I do want to give you good product. So I do appreciate any feedback you can provide. So let's talk about this lesson. This lesson is G double stops and in closed positions, very much focused on the lesson that I just did on Paul McCartney's Blackbird. Blackbird is a tune that really, I've been playing it for 45 years. It was one of the first things I learned on guitar. And Paul is really doing a series of double stops. He's doing partial chords. And to me, those chords, the way the positions, the shapes kind of interconnect, it just total logical sense. And I could totally see sitting down on the guitar, taking this shape and going, well, what about if I move it here and change this a little bit? And you end up with a really complicated chordal a really complicated harmony, but you're using minimalist shapes and approach. And it's just the brilliance of Paul McCartney. He probably had all this worked out in his head ahead of time. Me, it would be playing around with the guitar and coming up with this stuff. But when I wanted to arrange for mandolin, I wanted something that wasn't a direct lifting of what Paul was doing, because it's going to be really hard to approximate the finger-picking guitar. But I wanted the sensibility of double stops, open strings, and trying to capture the spirit of it without necessarily trying to be a pale copy. And I think I came up with a reasonable arrangement. So what I'll do is I'll work you through 5 double stop shapes, and then we'll talk about how they fit specifically in the Blackbird. So let me switch over. I'm going to show you this tablature. So in shape 1 and 1.5, you can see there it starts on a G double stop, which is the 5th fret of the D string and 2nd fret of the B string, or of the A string, which is a B. So you've got a G and a B. G is the root, B is the 3rd above that, a major 3rd above it. The next is 7/3, which is A on the bottom, C on the top. That's part of an A minor triad. A is the root, C is a minor 3rd above that. Those fall naturally within the G diatonic major scale, within the major scale. Because if I were to play you a scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, all I'm doing is just building a harmony on top of that. So then you end up with something that sounds like this. So all I've done is take this G scale excuse me, and then add a 3rd above it. So you've got G, B, 5/2, A, C, that's an A minor, that's 7/3, 9/5, that's a B minor, that B and D, C, which is 10/7, C, E, D major, D, F sharp, 12/9, E minor, 14, that's an E, 10, that's a G. Now you've got F sharp, A, that is part like an F sharp minor diminished, or F sharp diminished, sorry. But it's also part of a D7. That's why it leads into the 1. Which is, what is that? 17, 14. And if we look at this, you can also go across strings. So you could do, like in the second line, where you jump over to the A and E strings, and you could have something that looks like this. Hopefully these seem familiar. But this 5/2, I call shape 1. Shape 2, so shape 1 is 3 frets apart. You can see I've got 2nd fret, 5th fret, 3, 4, 5. That's 3 up from the lowest, from the lower of the 2 notes. And not lower in terms of tone, but lower in terms of where they're located on the fretboard. 2nd fret. That's a B. That's still higher than G in terms of scale. But I'm just talking about location on the fretboard, what fret they're on. So 3 frets apart. If you take the shape and you add another fret to it and make it 4 frets apart, then you end up with this A minor. So you end up with 3 fret, if you're doing the scale, 3 frets apart, 4 frets apart, 4 frets apart, 3 frets apart, 3 frets apart, 4 frets apart, 4 frets apart, and then 3 frets apart. And like, you know, in a major scale, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, is how you would get, how you would put together this major scale. There's whole, 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 I'm sorry, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So it's just taking the major scale and then building on top of there. And where you have the distance, like between the 1, 4, between the 1 and the 4, the 2 and the 3, those are more spaced apart. Where you have the 6 and 7, those are more spaced apart. So it's just remembering the spacing, but it all aligns with the G scale. I've done a terrible job of explaining it, but it's really just understanding the sequence of notes. And you've got the tablature to work on that. So the shape 1 is 3 frets, shape 2, or shape 1.5 is 4 frets apart. So let's look at shape 2 and 2.5. So 2, you can see the 4, 5, that's on the G and D strings. That's a B note and a G note. They're a third apart too, except now the root's on the top. So you're taking that same G note that's on the D string, and now you're adding the harmony below instead of the top. And then that ends up looking like 4, 5, B, G, 5, 7, C, A, part of an A minor chord, D, B, that's a 7, 9, that's part of a B minor, 9, 10, that's part of a C chord, that's E, C, F sharp D, 11, 12, 12, 14, that's a G and an E, part of an E minor, A, F sharp, part of an F diminished, and then you've got the G, F sharp, G. And you can play that across the strings. But it's the same sequence. It's all based upon just that G scale. So your 2 shape is just 1 fret apart. You got the 4 on the bottom, 5 on top. So there's a bottom note, and the top note is 1 fret above that. So 4th fret, 5th fret. Then the next one is spaced by 2 frets. 5th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret. And again, it follows the pattern of the major scale. So let's look at, let's look at shape 3. Now 3 is a diminished shape, and you can see that there is a, like if we look at the first one, it's an A7 chord, which is a C sharp, D flat, is what's written there, and that's a product of notion. I still can't figure out how to make that always show up as a sharp as opposed to as a flatted one above it. But C sharp, and then the G below it. So 4, 5 on the 4 on the A string, which is C sharp, 5 below that. So that's part of an A7, because an A7 chord would be A, would be this. Would be A, F, or C sharp, E, G. Some of you might know this shape, 5, 4, 5, D7, or A7. We're talking about the bottom 2 notes. But this can also be a diminished, and that's the thing. 7th chord shapes and we're talking, you know, like dominant 7th, not major 7ths. But dominant 7th shapes, like a G7 chord, not a G major 7th. But the dominant 7ths and the diminished chords are related. And so this shape is both a 7th and a diminished. Here, it could be part of a G diminished chord. Here's a G. If I do this, G, D, that's root, that's 5, the 5th above. if I take that fifth and drop it 1 fret, that's a G diminished chord. And I could have stuff like, you know, that kind of typical kind of silent movie kind of sound. So here, a 7th chord or G diminished chord. And we hear that in Blackbird because we end up with this. Because it goes from this one shape, the C chord, 10, 7, 11, 10, which is a C sharp diminished, to a D chord, one shape, 12, 9, that's a D and an F sharp, to now D sharp A, which is D sharp diminished. So that's the diminished shape. If we look at shape 4, that is where you have a like here you have on the fourth or on the D string, 3rd string, you have got a G note, which is the 5th fret. You've got a D note, which is the 5th fret on the A, G D. So it's a root 5. That is a G5 chord. But it could also be a D sus 4, because if I've got this 4, 5, or something like this. Sorry. I don't know about you, but my house is having a terrible time this winter, and it's a 50-some degree day today. And everything in this house seems to be acting weird, including my mandolin. But, like, there's a D sus 4 chord. So the double stop itself... Oh, I'm sorry. Now I'm doing a D7. So you've got a root with a 4th above it, which would make it a D sus 4. It could also be part, again, it could be part of a G chord. It could be part of a D chord. It all depends on context, and that is the one thing that I want you to walk away with, is that I'm not saying that these shapes are always X. Like this one shape, 5-2, that is not always a G chord. In this context, it's a G chord, but it could also be part of a B minor. Part of a E minor, because E minor is E, G, B. Here, it's 3rd 5 with no root. So it all depends on how it's being used. So, you know, don't walk away from this saying, well, Jim always says that this shape is a G or it's a major chord. It could very well be part of a minor chord. It's all contextual, but it's a common shape that you can see used in a variety of ways. And it's really about learning the shapes and then figuring out how to apply them. So if we go back and we look at our final shape is another one where it's root 5, except here it's reversed. So you have the root on the top and the 5 on the bottom. So if you look at 5th fret on the D string is a G, the C above it, the 3rd fret of the A string, makes it a C5. Except the 5th of the triad is on the bottom, root's on the top. But as you can see in the very next, it could also be a G sus 4. So it could be kind of like in our previous situation. I've got because there, I'm not playing a C chord. I'm playing a suspended 4th version of the G chord. So it is a matter of just understanding that depending on how you use the shape, it could be a variety of different chords. And that's what you see in Blackbird. So let me talk through some of these shapes, and maybe this will become clear. So the tune starts out with shape 1, and it goes to 1.5. So it goes from, sorry. So it goes from that to 7/3-9/5. Then it goes to this chord, not a double stop, but a chord, which is really two double stops. You've got 5/5, that's the bottom part of a G chord, and then 5/7, that's the top part of a G chord. But then it has that C, the C sharp diminished, the D sharp diminished that I showed you earlier. And that G, it's kind of like a banjo. I mean, the G is being used as a drone to help with the roll. And when you play that, you're not trying to bang on that G note. You're hitting it, but what you're really trying to draw out is what you're doing on the D and the A strings. Then it goes to an E minor, which is this. Man, the G sounds better too. Should be a lesson on how to tune your mandolin when your house is having a hard time with humidity. So you've got this G, this E minor that looks like a G. You've got 9, 10. That's a B and a G on the D and the A strings. So this is the 5th of an E minor. This is the 3rd of an E minor. There's just no root. It's not being used as a G chord. It's being used in E minor because you can hear it. Now it uses this, it goes from a 2 shape, this is shape number 2, to shape 2.5. And what it does is that the B is lowered to B flat and it becomes an E minor 7th flat 5 chord. But if you looked at this, what is a G, a B flat, and a G? Well, it could be a G minor. But in this case, it's not being used as a G minor. It's being used as this variant of an E minor. It goes down to another 2.5. I'm sorry, it goes just 2 down to 7, 9, which is like a D. Back up to 9, 10. Goes down to the C. So now you've got 2.5, shape 2.5. 5, 7. Being used as a C chord, part of a C chord. And then it goes down to a C minor chord, 5, 6. But that is shape 2, but now being used as a minor, not a major. And then you've got this blues turnaround. That's shape 4, shape 3, shape 5, shape 1. And then in the bridge, you've got this F that sounds a little bit like a D minor, which is the 1 shape, goes to an E minor, used in the 1.5, a D minor, used in the 1.5, a C, 1.5, and then it goes up to this B flat, 8, 5, on the middle 2 strings, up to a 10, 7, which is a C. So it goes. To an A, shape 1, 7, 4. Now shape 1.5 for an A minor, or D7, however you want to look at it, and then down to a G. So I apologize for my mandolin right now. It's really frustrating because the the house, I'm sitting here like in a sweat. It's like we were having freezing temperatures yesterday, and today it's 60. So what the hell? It's the joy of living in Indiana, I suppose. A tablature is available at Patreon. I don't think you need it. Again, provide me feedback to this. I'm also trying to script this out better. But again, man, I don't really want to read from a script. So, hopefully you can follow what I'm saying, but, provide me feedback because, after doing this 20 years, I need to really sit down and rethink some of what I'm doing. And your input is what I need. I don't need others around me suggesting what to do. I very much need the people who watch this and care about it and have benefited from it to provide me feedback. So thanks so much.